So Susan, welcome to the show.
We have Caroline and Jeff.
I'm Jeff, that's Caroline. Our subscribers look for us for tips on how to keep themselves safe in their home. Obviously, fire safety is a big part of that, so that's why we wanted to talk to you. What is the NFPA for people who are not familiar with it?
It's the National Fire Protection Association, and we've been around for over 120 years. It is primarily a codes and standards organization that's sort of the foundation of who we are and what we do. So we develop more than 300 technical codes and standards that jurisdictions adopt in their community. So some of our codes are adopted on a federal level, some state, some local or regional. And those codes and standards govern really so much of safety, not just fire safety, but also life safety from buildings, ensuring that people are protected from fire and other emergencies to the extent possible, but also that people have the ability to get out safely. Everything that's electrical is connected to the National Electrical Code. Every electrician in the U.S. has to follow our code. So, beyond that, the smoke alarms, sprinkler systems in public buildings, the doors, the windows, they're all follow codes and standards prescribed by NFPA. So again, we really work to very quietly make sure that people are as protected as possible wherever they go.
I'm a new homeowner. As a new homeowner, what should I do, when I move in to make sure that like my family's safe and I'm doing everything I can to be safe from fires in the home?
There are two main things you can do. You can make sure that you have smoke alarms everywhere you need to have them, and then you want to create a home escape plan so that when the smoke alarms sound, you and your family can use that time as wisely and effectively as possible. For the smoke alarms, you want to make sure that you have at least one on every level of your home, and you want to make sure that you also have them near all sleeping areas and one inside each bedroom. And a lot of people don't know that NFPA 72 is our smoke alarm standard, which requires smoke alarms in each bedroom. Ideally, they should all be interconnected so that when one sounds, they all sound. And then also for the best protection, you want combination alarms that detect. There's essentially two types of fires. One is more like a smoldering fire that gives off a lot of smoke. And then the other type of fire is more like a flaming fire. So you want a smoke alarm that has both types of detection. All those features together ensure that you have the maximum smoke alarm protection that you need.
So if you moved into a house that's not brandy new, would you have to update your smoke detectors to have all those features?
So that's a great question. One of the issues with smoke alarms is that people, they're ubiquitous. Most homes have at least one smoke alarm. Our surveys show that. The problem is that a lot of times they're not working. And one of the things people don't realize is that smoke alarms are not designed to work forever. They should be replaced every 10 years. Or, sometimes sooner if they start to chirp, you're finding you're getting nuisance alarms. That's a signal that they also need to be replaced if it's not a matter of just having replacing the battery. The way to check your smoke alarms, because I think a lot of homes do have alarms that are more than 10 years old, you want to look at the back of the alarm, and there's a date of manufacture on it. So you want to replace the alarm 10 years from that date. So it's not from the time you buy it or the time you install it. It's that date of manufacture. That will give you a clear indication of when it needs to be replaced. So it's 10 years from that date.
For new homeowners, what tips aside from updating your smoke detectors would you give to ensure their safety?
So you also want to test them once a month to make sure they're working. For a traditional battery, it is about once a year, maybe a little less. But a lot of smoke alarms have 10-year batteries now, so they really don't need to be replaced that often. So you have to know the type of smoke alarm you have, and if it has a traditional battery in it, or it has the newer, if it's a newer one that has the 10-year. But you really just do want to make sure that they're in good working order.
We talk a lot about technology. On this show.
Company.
Yeah, we are a tech company, so we like things that are new, and they're coming out with new things all the time, smart home devices. Is there anything out there other than, you mentioned the 10-year alarm, is that like the standard right now?
A lot of those newer smoke alarms will have features that allows for a 10-year battery, so that you're not having to replace them that often. But there is another technology that is very new. It's going to be required for all smoke alarm manufacturers next year. Underwriters Laboratories has done testing around smoke alarms that are triggered by nuisance alarms from cooking. So cooking is a leading cause of home fires in the U.S. And a really big problem is that when people are cooking, if there's smoke generated by the cooking that they're doing, it can trigger false alarms. And then people end up either dismantling their smoke alarm or taking out the batteries, and that puts them at increased risk of fires. So there is a new requirement by Underwriters Laboratories that all manufacturers will be required as of next year to create smoke alarms that have a technology that can detect between smoke that's created from a real fire or smoke that's created by cooking. And the goal of that is to minimize the number of nuisance alarms generated by cooking when there really isn't a fire. It's a complex technology. I can't speak to it in technical terms. That would definitely be for someone that Underwriters Laboratories to explain. But the upshot is that manufacturers next year will be required to include this technology in all smoke alarms.
Does that mean that like existing smoke detectors will have to be updated as well, or just newly sold ones?
No, it's just the newly sold ones. So you don't have to worry. It's not like your existing smoke alarms aren't, as long as they're in good working order and they're within 10 years old, they are absolutely fine. It's just that they're working toward, as people purchase new alarms in the year ahead, that they have this added capability within them.
I'm going to have to upgrade no matter what, because every time I try to sear a steak on my stove, like I'm running around like with a pillow, like, knocking it down with a broom.
It's almost barbecue season, and you could do that on your grill outside.
The last time I cooked a steak, my wife was like, go use the grill. Go use the grill outside. And I was, it was
and that's
cold.
why you have a grill.
Well, yeah, that's
And they
true.
make gloves and winter coats.
All right.
Seems like you'd be fine.
The better solution is for me to replace the smoke alarm so I can make as much cooking smoke as I want inside my house and not have to worry about it.
True. I guess so. Poor Liz and your puppies, but...
I make a really mean steak, though, so it's worth it.
Well, you can't tempt us with good steak and not invite us over for dinner.
That's true.
As we head into barbecue season, are there some tips that you'd recommend for just outdoor fire safety?
If you are going to be using your grill outside, which is great, you want to make sure that it's placed and used at least 3 feet from your home, and that it's away from between 3 and 5 feet from anything that can burn. So in other words, make sure anything that can burn is well away from your grill. That's step one. Because we're talking about kind of before the grilling start officially begins, you also want to make sure that it's in good working order. A lot of times, it's sitting outside for a long time. There can be spiders that get inside, or even the people have found sometimes like a bird's nest will be in there. So you really just want to make sure that you've inspected the grill so that there's nothing in there that can burn or be clogging up the tubes that connect the gas to the grill. And then you also just want to make sure that you are, when you are grilling, that you are monitoring what you grill really carefully. And if you do have a fire, you want to, the first thing you want to do is turn off the tank and shut the hood and wait for the fire to die out. So there's some simple steps that can really make a big difference in ensuring that you have a safe grilling season. And that kind of even crosses the board in terms of, when we say how do we fireproof our homes, a lot of ways that you can really minimize your risk to fires it's human behavior. So, it's having an awareness of where potential hazards exist and then taking the steps to minimize the likelihood of those mishaps happening.
So you're saying that I'm the biggest danger to my home in terms of fire safety?
I could have guessed that, though.
Kind of all are. It's not the technologies so much as ourselves, even cooking in general. Unattended cooking is a leading cause of home fires in the U.S. We get distracted, we walk out of the room.
I never get distracted.
Something else catches your attention, and that's where risks lie, because you really have to keep a close eye on what you're doing. So again, that's a human behavior, but you can really, if you're monitoring carefully what you're doing, that's hugely to your advantage. And the other thing too, just like with grilling, when you're cooking, make sure that you keep anything that can burn at least 3 feet away from the cooking area. So, a lot of times, and I've been guilty of this, you come home, I have an island in my kitchen, so it's like I come home, I'm going through the mail, I kind of toss it, and it's on the counter. And then I gotta start dinner, and there's the mail sitting right around there. So, you really got to clear that stuff away. In addition to things like towels and oven mitts, you want to make sure that they're well away from the cooking area. Another thing that sometimes I've been guilty of too in the winter, I live with a scarf in my house. I'm always wearing a scarf. But you really want to make sure that you remove anything flowing, or kind of like if you have like bigger sleeves, make sure that you're not wearing any flowing clothing that can come in contact with heater flames as well.
Don't cook in a scarf.
Well, I was gonna say I was cooking this winter and I had one of those shirts that had like the strings coming down from the collar.
I have those, the billowing.
It would look great on you, and I was cooking and I think it did catch a little bit on fire.
Singe.
Yeah. It was white, and now it's not.
You can see how that kind of thing can easily happen, but it's those little simple things. If you're aware of them, it can really make the difference between something terrible happening and nothing happening at all.
Yeah.
So cooking fires, you said, are the most common causes of home fires. Is that right?
It is the leading cause of home fires year-round. And obviously, you can see during the holidays we have big spikes. So Thanksgiving is by far the leading day for home fires. There's about 4 times as many home cooking fires on Thanksgiving, followed by Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, and New Year's Eve. So, times when we're really trying to get a lot done, we're distracted, we're doing a lot of cooking. You can see how easily, something can happen when you're not paying as close attention as you might otherwise be.
It's that frying the turkey thing, I think, that really spikes it, right, for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I know. And, we kind of laugh here at NFPA. We're a little bit of Debbie Downers on certain things, and that's one of them. We really don't even encourage people to fry turkeys on their own. We have videos on our YouTube channel, and we posted them on social media channels at those times of year, which show their demonstrations we've done with other organizations like the Consumer Product Safety Commission, where you can see just what a disaster it can be. I mean, a lot of people, I think take precautions, but there's a lot of room for potential fires and just, hazards. So we really don't encourage anyone to do them. If you want to have a fried turkey, we encourage people to have it done professionally.
So I'm a professional cook. No, I'm not. But I did go out.
Roaster? What's it called?
Huh?
What do you call your Chef Jeff?
Chef Jeff, yeah. I think that's, I'll put out a cookbook soon. But so for Thanksgiving, I did want to go the fry route, but I was scared of course, lighting my home on fire. So I went out and I got on this little site called Amazon, an electric fryer. Is that any safer? Because it's there's no flame. Because I assume oil and flame, that's where you get people knocking it over and it just, but if it's an electric fryer, is that any safer or am I fooling myself?
I'm really not the one to answer that because NFPA doesn't test, endorse, or approve products, so that would be an answer for someone like the Consumer Product Safety Commission. I do think because oil plays a big role in the hazards associated with the frying, I would think that an electric turkey fryer, whatever.
It's big. It's like a commercial.
I'm really not the one to say, so I wouldn't really want to officially go on record as saying that.
We'll do some research. But I bought the Butterball.
The Consumer Product Safety Commission is a place you would want to contact, and they would be able to talk with you. All
right, because I love fried food. It's so good.
Air fryers.
They're good.
So they just say that furniture is more flammable nowadays because it's sold at a little bit cheaper, so the materials that they're using are more flammable. So do you think there's any, other than buying more expensive furniture, better quality furniture, ways that we could prevent fires from spreading in new homes?
So many of the products and furnishings we have in our house are made of synthetic fibers. So it would be great if you could find a couch, for example, that was designed with more traditional materials like, wood and cotton fabrics. But the truth is that so many of the products in our homes are synthetic. So all the appliances, your computers, your television systems, when those products burn, they burn in their natural state, which is petroleum. So petroleum gives off toxic black, really dark gases and smoke. It makes it really hard to see and breathe, and within moments. So I think it's just the nature of all the things in our homes. The other things that contribute to the increased spend are the way newer homes tend to be designed. So lots of open spaces, great rooms, high ceilings. Those are also an ideal breeding ground for fires to grow and spread quickly. So you have a lot of things at play. So unfortunately, while it may be helpful to have more, furniture that was designed more as it was traditionally, maybe 20, 30 years ago. There are just so many other products in your homes that wouldn't be the case. The other thing with newer homes is they're designed with what's called unprotected lightweight wood construction, which has a lot of benefit in the fact that it's cost effective, environmentally, there are benefits, but that type of wood construction tends to fail faster in fires and burns at very high temperatures, so that also contributes. All those things combined make it really, really important to have smoke alarms in your home. Well, obviously even preventing fires from happening in the first place, but if you do have a fire, to have smoke alarms that alert you as quickly as possible, so you can use that time as effectively as possible to get out. And that's where the other part of really what we focus on at NFPA is really teaching people how to fully be prepared if a fire does occur, and that means advanced planning and practice.
I don't have an evacuation plan. I know, if my smoke alarm goes off, I know I have to get out of the house, but, what do I do?
Right, and do you have children?
I have 2 little fur babies, little puppy children, so they're, the most important thing. So I would, die in a fire before
Other
leaving
than Liz,
them. Yes,
your wife.
Of course. But, I think we would both die in a fire before leaving them in a burning building. So what do I do? How do I get out?
In a crisis situation, in a situation like a real fire, your brain is searching for any information it has on what to do. And if you have not created an escape plan, it's too late to start thinking of one. And there's so much room for error in making choices and potentially mistakes that will limit your ability to get out safely or even prevent you from getting out. Where today's home fires burn so fast and you have such a small window of time in a typical home fire, you may have as little as 2 minutes to get out, in some cases even less from the time the smoke alarm sounds. You have to use that time wisely. So if you have created a real home escape plan in advance that you've actually practiced with all the people in your household, your brain will pull that information and use it. So it sounds so simple, but it can have really potentially life-saving impact because you and your wife, in your case, can snap into action and know exactly what to do. But that does take advanced planning and practice because you have to have that muscle memory built in. So for the escape plan itself, you can draw out a grid of your home with all the rooms and then identify 2 exits from each room. So that would typically be a door and a window. And you want to make sure they're not blocked, that they're in working order. So, sometimes people will even put furniture in front of windows, especially if they're in a smaller space. But you really want to make sure that your windows are accessible and that they're in good working order in terms of can they open and close easily. For doorways even, you want to make sure they're not blocked by furniture. Windows, again, not lots of clutter around them. Really make sure your exit's clear. So you have a door and an exit typically for each room. And then from each of those exits, you want to determine a path to the outside. So how would I, from each of those exits, get out? And then you want to have a meeting place outside in front of your home where you'll meet. This is really important for anyone, but particularly in, homes where there are a lot of people. If there's someone who's unaccounted for, it's the fastest way of knowing someone's not at the meeting place, and they may still be inside. And then we encourage people to practice that plan with different scenarios. So what would happen if, certain exits were blocked off? How would you get out? And then the other thing is, of course, when you are escaping, you want to make sure that if you can, grab a cell phone on your way out so you can call the fire department or have a plan to go to a nearby or a neighbor's home so you can contact them as quickly as possible.
Gotcha. Should I buy a ladder? If I have a second floor bedroom, I'm just imagining, if there was a fire downstairs for any reason and the stairs were blocked, I'd need to get out of the second floor. I mean, I guess I could jump, but
You'd probably break your legs.
I'd probably break my legs.
One of our main messages at NFPA around home fires is get out, stay out. So once you're outside, stay outside, call the fire department, and let them know that someone or a pet is trapped inside. We know people love their pets, so it's a really hard message to hear. If you can safely escort a pet outside with you on your way out, great. But, our priority at NFPA is people, so we really want to get you outside. The thing is, too, fire departments and firefighters are trained. They have the gear to go inside a burning building. We don't. So, you can rely on them as best, to the best of their ability to get, obviously, people out, but in cases where they can, a pet as well.
I don't know if you guys watch This Is Us. You
No.
ever seen that? So, have you seen that, Susan?
Yep.
So yeah, it's like ingrained in my brain. So no spoilers here.
All right, probably
I guess
we'll never watch it, so.
It's so good.
You're talking about it was a couple of years ago now, I think, right?
Okay,
Maybe
so I can
18 months
spoil
ago
it. Is that what you're saying? I can spoil it? Spoil away. So the dad, it's a family, right? And the dad dies in a fire.
Oh dear.
And I think the fire is caused by, it's so sad the way they do it. So they are gifted a crock pot from like a neighbor.
Yeah.
And it's like an old crock pot and they make chili or whatever.
Yum.
And it ends up malfunctioning because it's an older thing or whatever and burns the house, starts a fire. Everybody escapes. And then this is what happens is the kids are like, what about the dog? And the dad's like, don't worry, I'm going to go save the day. And he goes in. And it's really sad.
Does the dog come out?
He saves the dog. But then, I guess all the smoke inhalation is what. So he's like alive, he's fine. And then they go to the hospital and he dies at the hospital.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's
the truth is, well, so NFPA addressed this episode when it came out because there are a lot of things that were created for that show that just aren't based in reality. That home was on fire at such a level that he never would have been able to get in there and come back out.
Never.
That's just completely unrealistic. The way that home was burning was completely unrealistic.
Got it.
So it was good high drama, but there were a lot of things that just weren't based in reality. The other thing, too, is for crock pots themselves, they have a really low incidence of starting fires. So, and even now today, I mean, they're considered a very safe appliance in your home. So, right idea, a lot of mistakes they made. Of course, we understand it's a show for entertainment, but
Right.
there's a lot of poor messaging looped in with that show. So they got some things right in the sense that cooking is a leading cause of home fires. Probably a crock pot, although it was old, theoretically it could happen, but the likelihood in reality would be really low. And again, just the way fires spread and the smoke they give off, most people die from smoke inhalation before the flames. That the whole way that whole setup with the fire in the upstairs and it's completely unrealistic.
I know. Well, movies, TV, what are you going to do? I mean...
But it's good to know that it's unrealistic.
Well, the only unfortunate thing is that a lot of times people get their information from shows or movies, and there are a lot of misconceptions about how fires spreads. Even a lot of shows, if a firefighter has like cute little kind of like smudges on their face after they walk out of a fire, and it doesn't. It just doesn't work that way in real life. And then even for sprinklers, there are a lot of misconceptions. So if you've seen a lot of movies, even the comedies, you'll see a fire and like all of a sudden all the sprinklers go off in the entire building, whatever it's a home or another type of occupancy, and that's not true. So sprinkler heads when you have a fire in a sprinklered building, only the sprinklers, directly above the fire will go off. So, things like that. Entertainment can kind of skew people's perceptions. So, we always just hope that they work as hard as they can to get it right, with the understanding that it's entertainment.
Yeah, I'm sure Crockpot was thrilled at that episode.
Yeah, unless they paid for it.
I know. I know, because that's what people were, there was a lot of commenting on social media, like, maybe I shouldn't use my crock pot anymore. I had no idea. And, poor crock pot.
Well, Instapot, I have one of those. But, I mean, seriously, like, I wouldn't use an old appliance, or at least if I did, I would never leave it unattended. So I guess that's basic common sense now, right? Unplug your appliances when you're not using them, I guess.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is you want to make sure they're in good working order. So if you've got frayed cords,
don't use that.
or that they're damaged in any way, that's a hazard. So you really don't want to use any kind of appliance that has any kind of damage to it. If it's not even if it's not working properly, if the start button isn't reliably turning on, or if it's not reliably turning off, which I think in This Is Us there was some indication that it was kind of on the fritz, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So any appliance, if it's not in full working order, then it's time to get rid of it and not use it.
Talk about sprinklers. Why don't we all have sprinklers everywhere? Is it too expensive, I take it?
Relatively newer technology. NFPA works year round. We have what's called the Fire Sprinkler Institute, which is an arm of our organization which works to require sprinklers in new constructions. The builder community doesn't like it because it is newer to them. It is an additional cost, although the cost has really gone down, and it's traditionally been compared to like the price of putting granite countertops in your kitchen. But even so, like the price has come down. We aren't advocating for them as retrofits just because that would be a lot more costly. But sprinklers dramatically reduce the likelihood of your risk to fire in terms of fatalities, but also injuries and property damage. And they're better for the environment. They're safer for firefighters. So there's a host of value that they provide. And really, at NFPA, we see that as the next wave of fire safety. It's the next level in really reducing people's risk, because what we've seen is, over time, we're getting a lot better at educating people about ways to prevent fire, so that's great. We're seeing the numbers year over year. They've declined in the past 20 to 30 years. So that's great. The problem is that the home fire death rate has remained fairly steady. Mm-hmm. So, what we're seeing is that when people have fires in their home, they're still having trouble escaping safely. So we've sort of leveled off, it seems. And it's sprinklers that will be the next opportunity to really minimize the likelihood of dying in a fire.
Can you put sprinklers into like an older home, or would it have to be a new build?
Well, that would be considered a retrofit. So you can install sprinklers in an existing home, in an older home. It is just a lot more expensive.
Money.
And I can imagine some homeowners don't want to look at the sprinkler on their ceiling, right?
Spray paint it white.
Well, they're really unobtrusive. If you look at the way modern sprinklers are designed, it's just like a little white cap flush with your ceiling. So you really can't see them. They're very tastefully done. There's just this overconfidence among Americans that fire won't happen to them. Mm-hmm. And like I said, the number of home fires have declined, but they're still happening. And where the vast majority of fires are preventable, there's so much more work we can do in reducing our risk. But again, people just don't think fire is going to happen to them, so they don't see it as maybe being worthwhile or needed. It's like fire is always something that happens to someone else until it happens to you. So I think because of that overconfidence, people don't always see it as being as important as we think it is.
Yeah, our motto here is preventing the preventable.
Yeah.
So obviously with something, we talk about that when we talk about anything, going awry. But when it comes down to fire, I mean, that's like a life-threatening thing. So very important, obviously, to do everything you can to keep
Beforehand.
to keep yourself
Yeah,
safe.
absolutely. I like it. I like your tagline.
Thank you.
Talk to me about fire extinguishers, because I know I was in a kitchen. The only thing that I've ever lit on fire was the wall in my kitchen. I was cooking a little pasta, aglio e olio, lots of oil in there, and
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. I got a little excited,
Chef Jeff didn't
Chef
show
Jeff
up.
got like the flame into the pan, and then the pan was filled with oil, so it just went, and I like threw it. But I threw it at the wall, and then my wall was on fire.
Oh my God.
And
boy.
this was a little scary, but I think I just like ran away. I don't know what I did to put out that fire.
All right.
But in the kitchen, should you have like different types of extinguishers for a grease fire versus something that's doesn't have oil? Or I know there are different types of fire extinguishers. Can you talk about that a bit?
Fire extinguishers can be really effective tools for putting out small containable fires, but there's a lot of caveats with them because you have to know that you have the right type of extinguisher for the type of fire you're trying to fight. B, you can actually, if you use a fire extinguisher incorrectly, you can actually make it worse, and that's particularly the case with grease fires. So if you have a grease pan fire and use the extinguisher incorrectly, you can spread the fire and make it worse than it originally was. You also have to be trained how to use them properly, which a lot of people who might decide to purchase an extinguisher don't end up getting the training that they need. And so there are a lot of risks included with extinguishers because people don't really often have the training to use them correctly. Add to that, like you said, you're the perfect example. You ran out. I don't even know what happened. I ran out of the room. It's a situation you've probably never dealt with before.
Yeah.
It's scary. Fire is really scary. So in a high-stress situation, with a tool that actually could make things worse instead of better, our messaging, which is get out, stay out, call the fire department. They know how to put out a fire. Everything's replaceable. You're not. The other thing with extinguishers is when you do fight a fire, you also have to consider, am I fighting it from an angle that I can put myself between the fire and an exit so that I can back out and exit safely and not corner myself in? And can I make sure that I'm also doing that for all the other people in my home, that I'm not putting them potentially in a situation if the fire spreads that removes their ability to get out safely? So there's a lot to process for someone who probably has never even used an extinguisher before. So for all those reasons, we really don't encourage people to use them unless they have the proper training. And the other thing is extinguishers don't last forever, so you have to make sure that they're maintained. And I think a lot of people might buy them and then they sit and collect dust for a long time, and then when they go to use them, they might not be in working order. So there's just so many caveats associated with them. We really don't promote them.
Gotcha. But if I have one, I should know how to use it.
Yeah, take training.
You should know how to use it, and you have to make sure that you have the right type of extinguisher for the fire you're trying to fight. Different extinguishers have different extinguishing agents. So you'd want to make sure that you have like a multi-purpose that can fight multiple types of fires. For grease pan fires, I mean, what we encourage people to do, if you're cooking with oil, keep the lid nearby. And so if there is a fire that starts, you carefully, with your oven mitt, you can take the lid, carefully slide it over the pan, and then turn the heat off, and wait for the fire to go out completely.
So definitely don't throw it on the wall of the kitchen, is what you're saying.
That's probably not the best idea. But that story reinforces that people don't always make the smartest choices in a fire situation because they're scared. And that's not something you're used to dealing with. So, you have to factor that in to how you're going to address a fire. Even like we were talking about, like if you at night, and, the alarm goes off, we would just get out. But, in a real fire situation, it's scary, it's hot, there's smoke, flames. There could be, depending on where the fire started and how far it's progressed. There's a lot to process. That's why having a plan in place for things is so critically important, because you're not operating under the calm situation that, you are when you're just thinking about it. When it actually happens, you're not necessarily in the same frame of mind.
Yeah, I mean, I literally, it was like just I didn't think
I
it was.
rescind my acceptance to go to your dinner party.
Well, we could always
What was
order
that?
out. Maybe I've stopped cooking. Maybe that's the lesson that we've learned, that I can't cook.
Okay.
Having an awareness of ways you can reduce your risk to fire and protect yourself, your family, your home can really make such a tremendous difference. So, if anyone has questions or information they're looking for, our website has a ton of resources. So I would just encourage, your listeners, if they're interested, to check out NFPA.org, and our public education section in particular has lots of safety tip sheets and checklists and a lot of things that can help people take steps to really reduce the risk to home fires.
Well, we'll definitely send everybody that way so they can digest all that information and be safe. Well, Susan, again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking the time and educating everybody about fire safety.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Talk to you soon. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.